Why did the Saints sign Brandin Cooks, ladies and gentlemen? Today we're going to be talking about that. We're going to have a nice long-form discussion on a Sunday. Well, it's not going to be that long-form. It's Brandin Cooks. About why the Saints are doing this and if they have ruined the franchise by signing Brandin Cooks. Before we get into that, good news, exciting news. The rumors are true. I will be on the State of the Saints podcast Tuesday, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. TJ... He came and said, look, I need the face of the franchise on the podcast. The people are screaming. The people are begging for you to be on there. I said, listen, if the people want it, you got me. So it is a live show, all right? It's a live show, State of the Saints podcast on CJ's Twitter and their YouTube page. So be ready Tuesday at 11 a.m. Be ready for it. I want this to be the most viewed, most watched, most listened to episode of the State of the Saints podcast they've ever done, okay? Y'all show up. Y'all show out anytime I need you. I need you this time. Also, be a good time to ask questions. You know, it's a free-flowing conversation. Good time to ask questions in the chat. Me and TJ are going to chop it up. I've given him all morning of my time for that podcast. So if he wants to go an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, turn it into a Joe Rogan-esque podcast about the Saints and whatever else, I'm there, okay? So make sure you're watching. Very excited for it. All right, so let's talk about Brandin Cooks. Now, when this news first came out, we talked about it. And cool signing, not a big deal, whatever. It is what it is. Pretty obvious how this is all playing out. And then I started seeing, predictably, outrage about this signing on the subreddits, other channels, other radio shows, whatever. And I was befuddled. Now, when the whole MVS thing happened, we poked fun at the outrage because it's so outrageous to be upset about MVS walking. Nothing against MVS. He's just an average, just an average player, interchangeable player. He had, 12 receptions last year. Not a big deal. And then I keep seeing the comments. I keep getting the texts. I keep getting the tweets. I keep getting the mentions. So I said, I'll talk about it. Fine. All right, guys, listen. This is nothing against MVS. All right, I've been accused of bugging. All right, Bug's Life, head ass. Bugging about MVS. I got nothing against MVS. I just see him as an average interchangeable player, which he is. He has been his entire career. 1 year deal in Seattle. Cool. Cook signs a 2-year, $13 million deal in New Orleans. All right. $6.5 million a year. Let's just call it. MVS got, $5.5 million? So virtually the same amount of money. Cooks is obviously a better player. That's not even up for debate. And we'll go through those numbers. So let's look at where that puts Cooks in the conversation of some of these receivers. Now, you can't look at the receivers who are rookies because they're on the rookie contracts, like Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors. So don't look at those. Garrett, even Garrett Wilson, players like that. Look at the veteran type players that this puts Cooks in the conversation of. Okay, you're looking at Kendrick Bourne, Jawan Jennings. You're looking at Khalif Raymond, less than Curtis Samuel, less than Adam Thielen, less than Jacoby Myers, way less than Alan Lazard. These are not big time players. When you're in this bucket, when you're in this receiver bucket, these aren't huge players. These aren't huge. This isn't huge money. Okay, if you drop down below, that's when you start getting into the Mac Hollins, Demarcus Robinson world, Kevontae Turpin, players like that. Okay, so as far as the money's not that big of a deal. As far as 2 years, $6.5 million, not a big deal at all. All right, not an issue. You got to fill the roster anyways. You need wide receiver depth. We know that because of the Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed situation. We understand that we could possibly get a 1 or a 2 in the draft. We could draft one receiver, could draft 2 receivers. Who the hell knows? So this is strictly a veteran roster filling, high ceiling option. I say high ceiling All right, so Brandin Cooks is coming off of the worst year of his career. He got hurt. He had a knee infection, had an issue with his knee, played 9 games. All right. Now, if we look at this data set, and this data set is his career, if we look at this data set, what do you think is the outlier? All right. It's obviously last year. He's played in 15 games, 13 games, 16 games, 15 games, 14 games, 16 games, 15 games, 12 games, 12 games, and then his rookie year. So obviously last year's the outlier. So you could argue on the low end, because you can't, he's not a guy who you would say like, oh, he's injury prone. He's always going to get hurt. So on the low end, you're going to get a mediumly productive veteran receiver on the low end. On the high end, you're going to get something closer to what he has been the last couple of years, which is a more than productive starting veteran receiver. If you look at some of these numbers, 700 yards, 8 touchdowns, 700 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. Like, we'll take that, right? Super high ceiling, super high floor, relatively cheap. Sounds good. Next up, what does he actually do? Okay. What does Cooks do, and what do the Saints want Cooks to do? I'll answer your question with another question. What did MVS do? Anybody? This is a free-flowing, interactive conversation. What did MVS do? MVS was deep threat, big-time playmaker, stretch the field, basically a walking go route. All right? Does Brandin Cooks do that? No. No, he does not. So then why did we let MVS walk then? Who does that even better on the team? Anybody can answer. Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed is back. Rashid Shaheed is not injured. So Rashid Shaheed is going to do what MVS did. We have a better, younger version of MVS already on the team. There's no need for 2 of them. Okay? So we have MVS. Takes care of the big play, takes care of the stretch in the field, takes care of the go routes. Okay? Brandin Cooks, let's look at his player profile. We want Brandin Cooks to work the intermediate part of the field. We want him to work out of the slot. We want a guy who can be in the slot or outside if he has to. A veteran in a very young receiving room, which will be even younger when we draft receivers. All right, someone who has been successful for a long time can teach these guys something. Okay, again, for the cheap. You look at what Brandin Cooks has done. This is last year. I mean, it could go to his entire career, but we'll just go last year. And you see that reflected. His ADOT. Okay, where I just saw it. Where was his ADOT? Average target distance, 11.7. Perfect. Perfect. Exactly what we want. All right, we want just a nice intermediate. Could get long if you wanted to, but not necessary because we have Rashid Shaheed. So just someone to play off of Chris Olave, someone to show Chris Olave what he wants, like how to do it. Okay, veteran to kind of show that. If you look at contested catch rate, 23.1, much better than MVS. You look at like routes versus man, win rate versus man, 34.5% versus man. Separation 1.18. Okay, we know what we're asking him to do. All right, all those numbers. MVS is not. MVS is much closer to the Rashid Shaheed stuff. If you look at like separation versus man, he's worse. Win rate versus man, all that. ADOT, his ADOT's obviously way deeper, 7 yards deeper because he's a burner. We know that. But Rashid Shaheed again. If you compare them over the last couple of years, you can compare them to. I have a bunch pulled up here. So this is last year. All right. Last year, this is their comparison. Cooks had more catches, same amount of touchdowns, 4 and 3. The rushing obviously doesn't matter. So more catches, same amount of touchdowns. Obviously, MVS is a big play guy, so he's going to have more yards per reception. But again, we know the ADOT. What was Cooks' ADOT? 10.7 or whatever he said. Makes sense that his yards per reception is 10. He played 4 more games. So even last year, relatively similar. Then if we extrapolate it out through their careers, It's not even close. So this one is I did like 3 of them. I got now I'm lost in what they are. This is 2021 to 2024. Okay, so this is like the last couple of years. Cooks is like not even, I mean, just astronomically better. Not even close. Way better. Okay. Oh, I remember what this is now. Okay, so this is the last 2 years. Cooks is way better in every metric. Okay. This is since 2021. So we're slowly going back. Cooks again, way better. And then this is their career, not even close. Cooks, way better. So, and then last year. So that's what these numbers are. So Cooks is obviously the better player, getting for almost the same amount of money. You have a high ceiling, high floor. Makes perfect sense. No brainer. Totally fine. Average AF, mess city, Greek yogurt, just 6.5, 7 out of 10. Probably not even a 7. 6.5 out of 10 signing. Not a big deal. It's shocking to me to see the outrage for Brandin Cooks. It's bananas. Absolutely bananas to me. I mean, when you look at what the Saints need, what the Saints have, the money that he's getting, every single thing about this is the most like 1 + 1 = 2, simple, easy peasy, no problem signing you could ever think of. There is not a negative. Not a negative. The only negative, and this gets into like some really deep compensatory draft pick stuff, is if you sign another free agent over a certain value, you could be in trouble. But that's a more advanced masterclass we'll have to talk about down the road. Okay? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you are reeing because of a Brandin Cooks 2-year, $6.5 million a year signing, go to City Park, go to Audubon Park, go walk around, go lay next to a pool, go down to the French Quarter and have a couple Pim's Cups, open some Pokemon packs, open some baseball cards, watch some hockey, watch some basketball, bet on horse races, go to Rick's. I don't care. Do something. Okay? I didn't react. Obviously, there's a bunch of videos I could have reacted to about this Brandin Cooks thing, but I didn't even want to. I didn't even want to. Because it's so insane. And I didn't even want to support that. Okay. So that's my thoughts on the Cooks thing, why they did it. I think it makes sense. Totally fine with it. Not a big deal. Cooks is more than likely going to be our like Swiss Army knife receiver, where he's going to be probably the 4th receiver on the depth chart when all things are said and done. He'll be a guy who Kellen Moore can move around if he needs someone in the slot, if he needs someone outside, if he wants someone short, if he wants someone intermediate, if he wants someone to kind of stretch the field. Cooks can also do that. So, it makes sense to get that, especially when you factor in like you're not totally sure what receivers you may end up with in the draft. You're not sure if you end up with a Matthew Golden. You're not sure if you end up with a Igbuka or a McMillan or a Williams or a Smith. You don't really know. So you want to sign a free agent who can play off of kind of all of them, who can do anything you ask him to, who is a vet. Whereas MVS, he can really kind of only do one thing. He can really only stretch the field. He can really only kind of be the go route receiver. And he didn't have the career that Brandin Cooks did. So, Cooks, as far as a veteran leader, is much more valuable to a young receiver core. So there you go. There's a little easy peasy breakdown of the Cooks thing. I think it was a good move as far as, obviously, like I just said. Am I jumping up and down for it? No. Again, if you have a highly positive reaction to this or a highly negative, please 3 for 1 at the cat's meow every single day. Go nuts. Go nuts. Tuesday, Stay the Saints podcast. I want to see each and every one of you there. I want to see you in the chat rooms. I want to see you everywhere. Right now, it's Sunday. Go to TJ's Twitter and tell him thank you. Tell him thank you for bringing the face of the franchise onto the podcast Tuesday. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your Sunday. I will see you in the next video.